Welcome back. While you were gone, I dug out the garden a little more, I planted it out a little more, and I mulched it using plants we grow here on the property. You may recall me saying that it's hard to make enough compost for the garden, so instead what we do is we grow what we want to use as compost. We call these plants support plants. And support plants usually have more than one use. They might give us food, they might not, but they do something else for us in the garden. So what plants am I going to use to mulch this garden and bring life to it? The goal is to bring fungal life, because that's kind of the foundational building block. The fungus feeds various insects and worms. Those insects and worms feed other insects and worms, and then you've got a beautiful food web. I know just where to start. These bananas. Not many people think of bananas as anything more than a food crop, but these guys make an incredible amount of compost. And as you feed them organic material, they make the best soil. So despite the fact that these are decorative bananas, they still have an amazing use in the garden. You can see here that the bananas are crossing my path and kind of blocking the travel through the food forest. So I get to knock out two birds with one stone, build life in the soil for our demo garden, and clear my path a little. Banana work is very messy work, so I hope you brought a change of clothes. First things first. That's more like it. Let's get to work. This variety is called Sabrina, and it's a very nice decorative banana because of these red stripes. Another advantage is because it's a purely decorative banana, it makes these thin stalks that don't really need to support huge racks of bananas. This allows them to grow faster, and we get more biomass in a shorter amount of time than we would if the plant had to dedicate energy to making big racks of bananas and wide, thick stalks to hold them up. See, bananas are just layers of leafy material. They keep moisture in here so well. This is going to turn into amazing soil, all on its own. You lay it down so that the wet side is against the soil, and you're feeding the worms. The worms will come up from underneath, and they'll eat all the leafy material. It keeps the moisture in, it keeps other things from growing up. This is, in my opinion, one of the better things to grow for your permaculture needs. You see, this thing's really trying to fall over and crush my Suriname cherry, and I can't let that happen. I'd rather have soil. See, this thing doesn't make like real bananas. It makes little punky things, and they just kind of look cool. You get the whole banana flower effect. They're very decorative. They also make great shade. Bananas are fantastic for putting in early in your food forest to be a shade producer, not just soil. They'll allow the smaller plants to get a little break from the hot sun, and you can constantly chop and drop them on your smaller plants. They're a great companion plant. So if you're starting off a food forest, I would highly recommend you start with bananas. You can also start with very little soil, and this may gross some out, but you can use them as a latrine. They're very happy to have our liquid waste. There's a lot of vitamins and minerals in there, and bananas are such heavy feeders that you pretty much can't burn them. You can't burn the roots. You can give them fresh chicken manure, you can give them fresh compost, and they don't care. They love it. Give me more. Thank you, sir. May I have another? Here's a great cross-section of one that hasn't yet started to rot. You can see that they just, like an onion, grow from the inside out. And they just have layers of wet, leafy material. You can see the difference. There's still all this moisture in there. It's like celery stalk. How's that for some ASMR? Good stuff. Just a second, I think I found a scroll. It says here, remember to like and subscribe. Now that we've got our garden covered in banana litter and it's decomposing and adding organic material to our soil, it's time to add more wood chips. Now you might remember last time I said something like lots of wood chips. Yeah, that was it. There's actually an inherent problem with using a large amount of wood chips, and that's the nitrogen that it consumes as the wood chips break down. If we were going to design a better wood chip, it would have high nitrogen to fuel this process. It would be quick growing and would give us a lot of biomass in a short amount of time. It would decompose quickly to feed our soil and add organic material. It might even do something to attract pollinators. This is Tithonia diversifolia, or Mexican sunflower, and it is going to be your best friend and possibly your worst nightmare. This guy likes to replicate all over the place. Any little woody shred of the cutting will root and start a whole new plant. And then it blows up into a 15-foot monster unless you're constantly trimming it back. Lucky for us, those trimmings are super beneficial. They are incredibly high in nitrogen. The rumor is that an equal amount of Tithonia wood chips has the same amount of nitrogen than composted chicken manure, which is ridiculous for a plant. Now, it's not atmospheric nitrogen. It pulls the nitrogen from the ground. This isn't nitrogen fixation like what we've talked about with legumes. So make sure that you plant this somewhere there's a lot of nitrogen to soak up. Perhaps near your chicken coop or on the side of the road where there's constant grass cutting but no real removal of that plant material. You're going to have naturally a high nitrogen environment. You plant these instead, it can soak up and transport the nitrogen to a different area. Here we have it in kind of a pit that we couldn't grow anything else. It was a real problem and we couldn't get, I got some monstera growing and we've got some tea and some various other things, but it was a real problem planting this area. There's a lot of wood breaking down, there's a lot of organic material, but fruit trees were very unhappy in the space. So instead, we loaded it up with Tithonia diversifolia, Mexican sunflower, and now I have a place to pull from to get both mulch and nitrogen. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to work. You may not want to plant this right next to the fruit tree because then it will compete for the available nitrogen with the fruit tree. Similarly, you don't want to put this next to your compost pile because it'll just pull all the nitrogen out that it can reach. So like I said, this thing wants to take over the world, and it's pretty serious about it. It's got some serious plans. It's got a map. It's got a vision board. It is on it. So the woody ones want to drop root. The grass ones, the grassy green, less likely. That doesn't mean it won't. So instead of just chopping and dropping this, like a lot of people would have you believe is the correct approach, I humbly disagree, at least in this environment, because we get so much rain and it's the absolute perfect environment for this stuff. Run it through a wood chipper. It's worth it. It makes it break down faster. It makes it melt into the earth. It feeds the earthworms. It turns your clay soil into a big loamy black goodness. The beautiful soil that we all want that smells like the earth. And to that one guy in the back that was like, LOL, pit, yeah, right. This is a segment I like to call, I told you so. I told you so. There we have it, supercharged mulch. We're going to distribute this across the whole garden, and as this breaks down, this is going to feed all kinds of microbes and insect life, worms, and most importantly the fungal network, because this is a woody material. It's going to break down really fast. So in a couple weeks, a couple months, I'm probably going to put more wood chips on top, like from a tree, genuine wood chips from a tree. And the nitrogen here will fuel the breakdown of the next layer of wood chips. Okay, so now we have a layer of banana chop and drop and a ground up layer of Mexican sunflower. So it's been nearly 3 months since I mulched this garden. And you can see that the peanut grass has taken over pretty well. But let's take a look underneath. So you can see here that the ground cover is doing its job. It's covering the ground. So here's our mulch, and we can find, this is one of our banana pieces. This is still very moist. The ground cover is keeping the mulch very damp, and that's really what we want because we want this to break down. So let's pick this up and see what's happening underneath the mulch. If you see this white spider webby stuff, that's fungus. So we have successfully encouraged a fungal network to begin developing. And remember, this is only 3 months in. So in another year or so, this is really going to be broken down. You can see we've already got earthworms, where before this soil was kind of red and seemed pretty lifeless. We now have life. We have fungus, we have earthworms, we have bugs buzzing around and crawling in here. Let's let them have their piece. So that's another successful mission. We've gotten fungal life here. Next time we'll be continuing our journey with support plants with a focus on interplanting nitrogen-fixing legumes. That sounds like a party. Thanks for watching. Keep growing.